And here we are. Welcome back to the Redshirt Sophomore Podcast, where we never sit out. And we're not sitting out today because two of us are in person today. I'm your host, Matthew Dawson, joined today, once again, as always, co-host and brother, Chris Dawson. So, how are we doing?
Feels good. We love talking football, especially being together. A special episode. Finally get to record in person, make it a little different dynamics, and be a good time.
Yeah, this being recorded on Saturday, so it's going to come out on Sunday. Special Sunday. It's going to be Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to any of the fathers listening out there. We know our demographic is 94% male. So we know that there's fathers out there, or, you have people have dads. So if you see your dad or you don't see your dad, shoot him a text, make him feel appreciated. But
send him a text, send him a happy Father's Day, and then send him a link to this podcast. What better?
What better Father's Day present than just more college football to talk about and listen to? So, anyways, we got a fantastic episode ahead, right? We got our pass catchers draft, right? We got our wide receivers, tight ends. Oh,
pass catchers, keyword.
We've been going back and forth. We feel like we both got some guys because it's pretty deep in terms of receivers, right? But a lot of guys. This was a deep, not top end talent wide receiver class in the NFL. It was pretty deep though, right? So we had a lot of guys leave and a lot of transfers. The thing about wide receivers is that there's so many transfers. It's like, how is that chemistry going to be? Well, hopefully those questions are answered today, and also, hopefully they're answered in the fall. They will be. That's a spoiler alert.
Yeah, and a lot of things happened since our last podcast episode. Some recruiting info. We've got some conference updates with the SEC schedule, with
San Diego State,
and West, and then we'll finish up with our pass catchers draft.
Maybe some Elite 11 hints. I know CD here follows that a little bit closer than I do. I have some tidbits that I've been hearing. Not an insider by any means, but definitely like to follow that stuff because quarterback's an important position in football. So.
Yeah, the Elite 11's weird. Well, I'll talk more when I get there. Actually, I'll say that.
Yeah, but some things that happened recruiting wise, a bunch of things. Oregon State landed a 3-star athlete, very awesome. Damn right, as Jonathan Smith would say, go Beavs. I love Oregon State. Michigan got 2 commits, 2 4-stars. One of them was a running back, right? It's fantastic.
Running back, wide receiver.
Bishop Gorman, I believe, was from Nevada, or Bishop Gorman, Nevada, probably best school in Nevada, easily. Right, we see talent there all the time. I think Zachariah Branch is from. USC guy. So
Tate Martell. People remember
Tate Martell. Oh, that's a name drop. People thought he's gonna be good. Florida, 2 4-star commits that propels him into the top 10 in recruiting class. So Billy Napier. Sure, there's some smoke about maybe he can't get the quarterbacks, but he's got DJ Lagway, but maybe
he lost another one.
He lost another, and we'll get to that one. Clemson landed a 4-star running back. That's awesome. LSU landed a wide receiver from Louisiana. So keep him in state. BYU landed his 4-star tight end / D end. He's going to play tight end likely. Okay, that's the guess, but he's athletic enough to play either one. So realistically, it's going to be up to those guys. How do they want to develop them? So, but anyways, highly rated recruit for BYU, and that's fantastic, especially one of the Big 12 when you're trying to recruit down there.
Yeah,
it's tough pickings.
Well, it makes it harder, but you also have a new demographic open to them, where you're going to have teams, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas. Players from those states are going to be more familiar with BYU, and then it's going to lead them to get more recruits too,
Yep. Quay Birdsong, Cincinnati's top prospect that they've landed for the 2024 class, just decommitted, which is pretty heartbreaking for them because that was definitely a top guy that they're going to rely on to be a leader in this class. And he decommitted. The smoke, say smoke out there, there's smoke, might be UCF. Okay, so keep an eye out for that.
No surprise there. If you've been following us, you've been following recruiting, UCF is making moves right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So Boo Carter, 4-star, Tennessee landed him, in-state athlete. All name team. First
Boo Carter.
Quay Birdsong, Boo Carter. These are all name team guys. They're all committing, or decommitting, I guess, in Quay Birdsong's case. So that's pretty awesome. And I guess that means we'll talk about Minnesota,
I got this. Don't worry about it.
CD's got this one.
Big official visit weekend, like it is for everyone else. I had 2 offensive tackles Saturday night. When we're recording this right now, one of them nationally ranked Nathan Roy from Wisconsin, top player in Wisconsin, depending on where you look. but huge deal. And I'm actually getting a text from my buddy right now. Maybe something else is happening too, but we'll see. We'll keep-
Insiders.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my!
So
We're getting texts, but we're not in
I
the.
can't
news.
say it. I can't say
We're
it.
not in the news breaking industry.
No, not my news to break either. We'll let these players have their fun, their moment. But yeah, it's fun. Minnesota's making moves. They jumped in the top 10 for a brief moment, and then Tennessee landed Boo Carter. I think that down to 11 or 12, wherever they are right now. But they're making moves too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Early in the cycle. 21 commits.
Yeah, and look, if there's anything that Brian Callahan does well at Minnesota, it's developing offensive linemen and large ones. These guys are
large, long, athletic body types. That's what he does. He scopes them out and he says, "Here, give him 3 years in the weight room, and with my technique, and you're gonna be a monster." And it's proved. I mean, they're all conference every year. They got all past 2 years. All 5 of those players have been all conference something. All conference.
Right. And if I'm correct on this is until you told me top 5 commit all time, Nathan Roy.
Yep.
For at least the best one PJ Flex.
Yeah, if he were to stay at his current ranking and sign with the Gophers, he would be top 5 player ever to sign with the Gophers. First player to be the top ranked player in Wisconsin to sign with the Gophers since the 90s. I mean, yeesh. When they have come whenever they wanted to Minnesota and just taken whoever they wanted, this year that changes, and we love that. We love that.
Absolutely. So before we go talk into like conference shakeups, let's get a little bit of Elite 11. What are you seeing? What's the news with Elite 11?
Right? Well, we obviously know Julian Sayin, the Alabama commit, won the Elite 11. He was the alpha dog or whatever they call it. He was Elite 11's MVP. And that takes into consideration not only his performance at the camp, but also his film and his prior stuff he's done. Because they're not going to have some no name show up and just ball out and then whatever. But obviously, credit to him. We've seen a lot of Elite 11 winners, especially in the recent history, go on to do great things. You look at Jackson Arnold last year; hasn't done anything yet, but we saw him shoot up the rankings. We know he's going to be a really good player at Oklahoma. Cade Klubnik, highly ranked guy at Clemson. Jury's out on him, but we still have a promise for him. Caleb Williams, obviously a Heisman winner. CJ Stroud, top 2 draft pick. Spencer Rattler has had his moments in college football. The year before that was Justin Fields and Tua, both first-round picks, successful NFL quarterback so far. This is where I get into some funny names or some throwback names. If you follow recruiting, especially down south in the SEC, this is when they first started the Elite 11. Shea Patterson actually was it. Once upon a time, he was a top quarterback in that in his cycle, and
committed to Michigan, right?
He was Ole Miss first. And then he transferred to Michigan. So, Hugh Freeze got him to go to Ole Miss.
Right.
Probably with some extracurricular activity that he got in trouble for there.
Yeah. There's some McDonald's bags.
Yep. And then Blake Barnett. Oh.
Throwback. Talking about a quarterback battle in Bama history.
Yeah,
Great battle.
A 5-star from California, won the Elite 11. He was supposed to be the savior for Bama football offensively, and he was not it. And then Sean White era at Auburn was just yikes. Him and who was the Heisman favorite that one year? And then Sean White took over. It was Jeremy Johnson or something stupid like that.
Oh, yeah.
But anyways, that was a long time ago. Nowadays, the Elite 11 is pretty important. Other guys that played well, Dylan Raiola, obviously, the Georgia commit, the top consensus top quarterback in the class, did really good. Some risers that were 3-star guys, lesser known players, but got invited to the finals and did well. Ethan Grunkmeyer from Ohio, just committed to Penn State recently, actually. I know Minnesota was on him for a while and tried to get him in. Some other schools too. Really smooth mechanics, good player. He's gonna rise up in the rankings too. We'll see. Will Hammond from Texas Tech
with our guy Joey McGuire, baby.
Joey McGuire, second-year guy, making moves in quarterback recruiting waves, and he had a good Elite 11 too, and outplayed his position or his ranking, if you want to call it like that.
Awesome. Yeah. So there's a lot of other people that cover that stuff really, really well. So if you want to deep dive into that, definitely go check some of those guys out. I know Bud Elliott, we talked about him before. He does a pretty good deep dive on that. There's plenty of guys out there that do this.
Wilfong.
Steve Wilfong, awesome. He's a great follow in general. I mean, he's a recruiting god.
If you're a college football fan and he's not one of your follows on Twitter,
you're doing something wrong.
At least least follow them. Put them on post notifications too, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So, other news: SDSU, San Diego State, sent in their resignation letter for the Mountain West.
What does that even mean, though?
Right. I don't know. I don't know what that means. I guess Pac-12 is where they're headed, kind of.
I guess there's a transfer portal for college football teams now.
Yeah, I guess there's a transfer portal for the college football teams, whatever that means. That's kind of ridiculous. But long term, though, I think it's the right thing for their program because their athletic department is very big and their success. I mean, they literally just played basketball-wise. They played in the NFL NCAA championship. That's crazy.
The brand new stadium they just built there.
Yeah, football.
Beautiful.
By the way,
football stadium.
You guys didn't know the all-time leading rusher in the history of college football, which with some question marks because bowl games way back when didn't count, which so he wouldn't be number one, but I mean from San Diego State. So
it's a Donnell Pumphrey.
Donnell Pumphrey,
yeah.
Donnell Pumphrey Jr. So they've had success there. I mean, they have talent. They're right there in California, fertile recruiting ground. So if they propel into that Power 5 program, I mean, looking at a lot of leverage for them to actually do a lot. I think in terms of like the other teams that moved into like especially teams in the Big 12, I think SDSU in terms of like their potential is their ceiling is higher than those other teams that moved. I think maybe UCF is the only one that.
Yeah, I don't see why they can be competing at the same level as BYU and Cincinnati are, but they can, like there's no reason for them not with the resources in that program with a conference TV budget that they'd be getting in a Power 5 TV deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So more conference shakeup. Well, not shakeup. Well, it's shakeup because Oklahoma and Texas moved to the SEC, which we already knew. But what we didn't know was who was playing who in 2024. So we got to see all those games. As a Texas A&M fan, I'm pretty stoked. I'm pretty stoked about what we drew. I'm excited to see Notre Dame at home. I mean, that's awesome. But I'm also excited to see Texas at home. I'll definitely be going to that game. I'm also excited to see LSU at home. I really like that. What are some other games that you're excited about? Georgia, Alabama. You're tier one. That's your tier one. So, I mean, I like to see that they kept some important rivalries, in terms of like 2024. Like it's the Jimbo Saban rivalry is not going to be going on in 2024, which, I mean, it's okay. It's more like everyone wants to think that they're Bama's rival, right? But, we'll keep the rivalry between Jimbo and Saban for the most part. I don't know. Any thoughts? Any initial reactions?
Well, I just think it's cool. When I saw the thing about Georgia's schedule and all their fans crying about it, and they're at the play like, I believe it's Clemson, right? And then Texas and Alabama and whoever else. I want to say LSU's on that, right?
Yeah. Well, I think they play Texas and Alabama on the road.
Yeah.
That's
So
home and road, big factor in a lot of these strength of schedules.
Yeah.
So all these schedules are tough. Like to say like
Tennessee. I'm sorry, not LSU. Tennessee for Georgia.
Yeah. So like a lot of these. Well, they get Tennessee at home, but a lot of these games, like in the SEC, you're gonna see people happy. You're gonna see people sad. No, it doesn't really matter. Like you're gonna have a tough schedule in the SEC no matter what. You draw 8 games, and now like you're not assigned divisions, right? So like in the East, you had your bottom feeders there. You were gonna draw every year. Now it's like I like that it's balanced a little bit more. I like to see that.
It's about time Georgia has a tough opponent. It's about time.
Yeah, jeez.
And they put. I mean, what was interesting for me was it really set in when I saw that stat about Georgia playing those teams. And I was like, wow, they would schedule Clemson and Texas and out of conference schedule in the same year. What are they thinking? And then I'm like, holy crap, Texas is joining, and Oklahoma. We're soon. We're close. USC, UCLA is coming to the Big 12 or the Big 10 soon. It's going to be really cool seeing these new yearly or every other year, just conference rivalry games from OU and Texas coming in. I think it's interesting. I've seen a lot of, could you call it buyer's remorse from Oklahoma fans thinking how they wanted to join the SEC and then they get their schedule and they're like, geez Louise, we miss Kansas. We miss, Texas Tech of old or the past decade or so. And now they're kind of wishing to go back or they want to go to the Big 10 or whatever it is. I don't know. With the 12-team playoff is coming soon, it doesn't really matter. If you're a good team, you're going to make it anyways. Be battle tested. It's only going to help, I don't think, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal.
Right. I mean, I like the renewed rivalries, right? You get to see Texas A&M, Texas, again, which is awesome. Arkansas, Oklahoma is pretty cool, but I'm kind of excited for like what is the rivalry shake, right? You see like teams like Auburn and Oklahoma playing each other, right? Who's to say that like I mean Auburn's got plenty of rivals, but who's to say that there isn't some stir up between fans in these schools? I mean, I just can't wait to see like kind of like how this like melds and like where do these guys fit? We could talk about like tier lists, right? Like where do they fit, but where do these fans fit in terms of interactions? Like, are we gonna see like is Texas gonna be hostile to Kentucky? Like, is that gonna be a thing? Like, probably not. But like, I don't know. It's just like it's really cool. Like Florida. Like, is Florida gonna be? No, like Oklahoma and Florida, maybe. I don't know. Like literally, we don't know. I don't know any of this stuff. I can't tell you who's gonna be like big like since joining the SEC, right? I mean, now LSU A&M is like a really, really old rivalry. I mean, they think the first game was played in like
the Southeast Conference, right? Or
well, there's Southwest Conference, but
Southwest.
Before that, like 1898, I think was their first game played, right? You have really old rivalries like that, but like since joining the SEC, I mean, Texas A&M, they've had trouble with the Mississippi schools, but those are good games. Those are good games. Now, I don't like the artificial rivalries that they breeded with the divisions. That's why I don't like the divisions as much. Like artificially, like trying to make Texas A&M South Carolina a rivalry. It didn't feel right. That's too artificial for me. Like let's just get good games, right? Like just get good games, and we're gonna see how everyone fits out. Like where those Texas Oklahoma might be in top tier of the SEC in terms of talent wise and like winning, but where do they fit? Where do they fit in the mold in terms of I don't know. I'm excited about that. I'm really, really excited about that. I was pumped to see the schedule. I was pumped to see it. A lot of cool things. We're probably missing a ton of like awesome games. I can't even think.
Well, not in 2024. I don't think, but Texas LSU. Remember that out of conference game with Joe Burrow and Justin Jefferson? Duel Texas. Texas didn't have the AC on. Like players are complaining about cramps. Right. It was like a real heated rivalry. It felt like your classic conference rivalry game. And who knows? That could turn into something fun. Because they're right next to each other. Those states are bordering each other, but. I don't know. I think it's all good things. It's all exciting as a fan of college football. At first, I was a little hesitant of buying into that OU Texas joining, but as soon as we get to Saturdays in 2024, and we're like, there's 4 elite SEC games, this week, and It's like every week there's going to be all these great games. So who knows? I'm excited for it.
Right, really exciting, really exciting. All right, now here we go. Pass catchers draft. You guys know the rules. You guys been catching our last couple episodes. We're gonna take one receiver or tight end from each conference. Okay, and it's gonna be at the end of the season. We're gonna tally these scores, these receiving yards, receiving touchdowns, receptions, PPR scoring. I guess this isn't actual fantasy teams. Okay, we're just going head to head, right? And it gives us a chance to talk about some of our top guys in the conference, but also. We're going to get into sleepers, like maybe guys that didn't make it onto our draft board necessarily, but like, wow, we would not be surprised if they had a great year and we'd be really happy for those guys. So I'm pretty pumped about that. We're only going to do one alternate for G5. For quarterbacks, we did one. Running backs, we did 2 just because we're pretty injury prone. Yeah. For G5, we're only going to do 1 alternate. So that means 5 power 5 wide receivers and then 1 alternate in case one of your 5 guys gets hurt, which we'll draw a line. I'm thinking it's like 9 or 10 games. We're kind of it's gonna be a field thing.
Or after the season, we'll figure out like, okay, this guy deserves.
Yeah, is it fair, right? Like, did this guy play hurt? Whatever. Okay, but
but not to say that we don't think G5 wide receivers are important.
There are some really good ones.
Really, really good ones. I know I'm gonna have the first pick, and so I'm very excited who I'm gonna take. But we're gonna give some shout outs to some guys that you guys need to know for the coming season. So.
Yeah, and a lot of like these guys that transferred, that didn't transfer from the G5 schools, like a lot of these G5 guys are the ones that are proven for the most part. Like those are the guys that have the production, have the
in their systems that they're in.
Yep, and a lot of these Power 5 guys that we're going to talk about, a lot of them are transfers. A lot of them are transfers, and like we have yet to see what they're going to look like in their new offenses with their new quarterbacks, the chemistry. Like some of these wide receiver rooms are deep. It's like who's going to actually win these jobs. So I'm excited. I'm gonna start. My first pick, I think it's not a no-brainer, but
we're in the SEC,
We're in the SEC. I'm taking Malik Neighbors from LSU, wide receiver. I think he's the best wide receiver in the SEC. That's my opinion. In terms of like if you're just basing
wide receiver.
That might be foresight as to what CD's taking over here, but I mean, 1,000 yards on 72 receptions. When you watch him play, he's extremely athletic. You know, I'm not gonna say when I watch him, like I've watched, like when you watch guys like Jalen Waddle, you're just wowed by speed, right? You're just wowed. But like for him, it's like kind of wowed by that balance, right? That like just awareness on the field of like where he's at, like his toe taps on the sideline.
His body
crazy.
control
His
is
body control is incredible.
incredible.
So NFL scouts are already drooling at this kid's film, and I think a second year with Jaden Daniels, I think it's just. Here's also the thing. Here's the safe part about that too is like Jaden Daniels goes down, Jared Nussmeier
still sling the rock.
can still sling the rock.
Probably almost better than Daniels in terms of just pure pocket passing.
Yeah, in terms of like getting him down the field. So I think Malik Neighbors is just the best pick here. I think he's the safest pick. I like him a lot.
With Butte going to the draft, even though he had a disappointing year, it still touches that have to be distributed out to everyone else. I mean, Neighbors would have been my first pick if I had a top pick.
Right. So now what is your pick then?
Well, I don't think I can turn down Brock Bowers.
Oh, yep.
At Georgia. When you said on the last episode, you said pass catchers were going to be the next one. I was ecstatic because he's a tight end. Obviously, he's not a wide receiver, but he still was like top 5 in the SEC in yards. He's top 2 in returning production in the SEC. He also has the added ability of rushing points. We're talking about fantasy points, right? His rushing, he had 100 yards rushing, over 100 yards rushing, and like 3 touchdowns. So that's like what, 30 more points almost. I don't know. I couldn't do the math real quick. Oh yeah, almost 30 more points. But he had 1,000 scrimmage yards, 10 touchdowns from scrimmage as well. He's the best player on any field he steps on. There's some mouths to feed, right, with Dominic Lovett.
Yep.
Coming in.
Lad
McConkey, who we love. Well, I love. And some other guys there. They had a guy just arrested. I think it was another driving incident too. I don't know exactly what's going on with the vehicle.
I'm not going to touch that with the 10 football.
Nope. But hope everything's all right with there. But I think Brock Bowers is just he's so good. So yeah, he's gonna be my guy.
Yeah, that's the right pick. Because I think a lot of I think Malik Neighbors is like the only wide receiver in the SEC. Correct me if I'm wrong, or whoever's listening to this can fact check me. But I think he's one of 2 or 3 guys, Malik Neighbors with 1,000 receiving yards, but Brock Bowers at 1,000 scrimmage yards. I mean, you get a guy that can take an end around 75 yards to the house. I mean, as a tight end, that's freaking crazy. So that's a good pick. I think I like that. There's not a lot of other receivers. I think you'd be taking a chance on a receiver in the SEC if you were to take another one. Yeah,
and we'll get to some sleepers right now, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the sleeper I'm going to talk about, not because I think he's necessarily going to have a gigantic season, but he's also on LSU. Bama fans know who he is. Aaron Anderson, his former 5-star receiver, had meaningful contribution. He's an absolute burner. Right? He's an absolute burner. I think he's really, really good. If you look at some depth charts right now, like your casual fan, they might say like, "Oh, he's not a starter." Okay, well, it doesn't mean he won't be a starter by the end of the season, right? Like he could be very, very talented. He's going to get playing time on the field, and like all of a sudden, come around fall practice, you hear the name. Oh, Aaron Anderson's making a lot of strides. Don't be surprised, but he couldn't. Bama's receiving room is not necessarily loaded last year either, and he struggled sometimes, or a lot of time when he was on the field.
He's only a true freshman too, though.
True freshman,
it's a big deal.
There's a lot of development to be made there, so I trust that staff over there, and I'm just gonna say, I mean, again, he's a sleeper. It wasn't someone I was ever gonna draft, but come on.
Yeah, I mean, I will for my guy. He's not really a sleeper, but I don't think he gets quite the attention he should be getting in SEC circles. It's Brew McCoy from Tennessee. He was the 3rd or 2nd leading receiver on that Tennessee team last year. Obviously, Jalen Hyatt had that monster year, all those receiving yards, all those touchdowns. But it's in a pass-heavy offense. You have a lot of opportunity there. You have Cedric Tillman and Jalen Hyatt both gone to the NFL. And so you got a lot of opportunity for him. Brew McCoy is a former 5-star guy. People kind of wrote him off after what happened. He committed to USC and then decommitted and transferred to Texas right away, and then he transferred back after summer practice. It was really weird, but he ended up finding a good home last year. Finally got some consistent playing time in the system. He's a physical freak, right?
He's very large.
He had a huge catch against Bama to set up that field goal. in that Bama game this past year.
He's also an absolute speedster, arguably one of the fastest receivers in the SEC. I would say.
Yeah, especially with Jalen Hyatt gone now.
I mean, Barian Brown, you can say is probably the fastest receiver in the SEC.
Yeah, Lad McConkey.
Lad McConkey's up there. So I think that's a solid sleeper. But yeah, let's move on to the Big 12. What do you say? Who's going to be your pick for the Big 12? I think there's a lot of guys.
There's two guys that I were really debating, and I want to go the other guy as much as I'm going to root for him and root for his team, but I cannot deny Xavier Worthy from Texas. He didn't quite have the production he wanted last year. Part of that had to do with the offense he was in my opinion. I know he wasn't totally healthy the whole year, but they had Bijan, obviously arguably the best player in the country last year. And then Roschon Johnson was also a very good number 2 running back. Would have started most any other place he was at. And so their offense was kind of built around those two guys. And Quinn Ewers was a young quarterback. They were still breaking him in. He had some good games, he had some bad games. So I think this is the year. I know there's some wide receivers coming back, the tight ends coming back too, Jatir Sanders or whatever. They got the guy from Isaiah Nair, right? His name from Wyoming, who's going to be healthy this year.
Yeah, didn't even play last year.
Name to know, right? That didn't play last year. Going to be really, really good for him. So I know there's going to be a lot of mountains. I'm banking on that offense taking a big jump,
I agree. I think they'll find ways. I think he's going to be more of a focal point of that offense rather than now. I do like guys like Jonathan Brooks, Keelan Robinson. I like a lot of those guys. But I do agree. I think that's the right pick in the one spot, but I'm not upset with getting Jared Bradley from Texas Tech.
Yep.
Fit freak. He is a freak. He's 6'5". I mean, in his second year now with Shuck, quarterback. I think he's going to be really good. I just think he's going to be really good. He produced when I had 700 yards. Like, oh, that's not wowing me. 3 different quarterbacks he was playing with last year. 3 different quarterbacks last year.
He was still top 10. I think top 7 in the Big 12 in receiving categories.
Yeah. And I think he's going to be an absolute focal point of that offense. I think he's going to find a lot of share in the red zone being that size. I think I'm really excited for him. I think NFL scouts are kind of eyeing this dude, looking at, hey, maybe this guy in West Texas. We got receivers in West Texas, not named Michael Crabtree.
Yep.
So I'm really excited for him. Could be a problem for a lot of teams. And we know I'm a huge Joey McGuire guy, so I am stoked about having Jared Bradley on my team. I'm pumped.
Yeah, that was going to be my second. That was going to be my pick. I just couldn't turn down Xavier Worthy. So I had to do what I had to do. A guy that you should be looking out for, though, as my sleeper in the Big 12, coming over from the American Conference, is UCF's Javon Baker. Now, if you're a recruiting fan, if you're an SEC fan, specifically a Bama fan, you remember that name as he had a really, really good spring game. It's true freshman year. He rolled early, had a really, really good spring game. And we know our Bama fans love their spring game heroes, right? Look at a Jai Hall. They thought he was the next coming of Jesus Christ. He had some behavior issues like Javon Baker did too. The coaches didn't love him in terms of his attitude. That's why he didn't play his true freshman year a ton. Ended up transferring over to UCF, and he finally put it together last year. He figured it out. And the leading receiver last year, Ryan O'Keefe, is off to Boston College. And I think that opens the door for Baker to get another year older, another year mature in the same system. Gus Malzahn seems to get the best out of these guys.
He really does.
Yeah. So I think he's going to have a monster year. He's got great hands. His hands are awesome. Anything just catches everything. So, yeah, I'm excited for him. Big talent for UCF to get to,
Right. Absolutely. I think Bama fans are okay with giving their player with quote unquote behavioral issues to Gus Malzahn, but I don't think they're going to be so happy when Javon Baker kind of puts up some numbers this year.
And they might have a wide receiver core. Now they might take a step this year, but who knows?
Right. My concern would be like fantasy wise, right? Like that offense, it's kind of rinky dinky, right?
Yeah.
John Rice Plumlee, it's going to be boots on the ground a lot of the time, but I do like their offense in terms of like efficiency, right? I think it's going to be very good. They're one of my favorite teams, honestly, in the Big 12 this year, if you were to ask me today. But we'll see. I think that's a name to look out for sure. My sleeper is Matthew Golden with Houston. He was a true freshman last year, and he produced very well. He played very, very well. A little bit undersized. Well, I shouldn't say undersized. He's not undersized, actually. He was pretty thin when he walked in the building. But now he's 6 foot 190, right? I mean, well, and he plays a little bit bigger than he actually is. I mean, again, he was a true freshman, produced like 700 yards. That's it. I mean,
Yeah.
he was a top, well, almost a top 200 player for that recruiting class last year. Was their best recruit, guy that they're excited about, the guy that they're invested in. I think a guy that they're going to like focus on in this offense. I think they really want to develop into a good player. Tank Dell is gone, who was their leading receiver, one of the leading receivers in the country, right? So Matthew Golden, that opens the door wide open for Matthew Golden. I think he can produce a lot. Now, again, not again, but their quarterback, I believe he's gone, right? Oh, Clayton Tune. Yeah, he's playing for the Arizona Cardinals now. So he's gone. So that'll be a little bit different. So I think it'd be too risky to take him in this draft scenario, but definitely got to look forward to this upcoming season. Very, very excited about him. Definitely a guy I'm going to be looking out for.
Mm-hmm.
He's from Houston too. So you love the hometown heroes for these college guys.
Yeah.
So now let's move on to the ACC.
It's a tough one, G. I'm not gonna lie. I'm lucky. I'm glad I don't have the first pick here because I don't want to be the guy to make the mistake, and take the wrong player and then have the other guy pop off,
Yep. And I think I'm gonna shock you with this pick. And I say that pretty much every one of these drafts, right? You guys in the comment section, sure you can roast me, whatever. But let's just talk about Jeff Brom.
No, you're not going Louisville, are you?
Think about all these receivers that he has turned into all-American type receivers.
I guess you're right.
Rondell Moore, David Bell, Charlie Jones. I mean, guys that you wouldn't necessarily expect. Now, here on this show, we're high on Charlie Jones. We were high on Charlie Jones from the gun. From the gun. You would ask us last year, we would have said that's the best transfer. You ask Uncle JD at his daughter's graduation party last year, we were telling him as a Purdue fan that he should be excited about Charlie Jones. Turns out we should have been excited about Charlie Jones. I'm going to bring up the name Jamari Thrash, transfer from Georgia State, all Sun Belt receiver, plays. So it's not like huge. I think he's 5'11", 185, somewhere in that range. He plays way bigger than he is. And you know what? You know what happens to receivers that play way bigger than they are in Jeff Brom's offense? Rondell Moore, Charlie Jones, they produce. He had over 1,000 yards for Georgia State last year. Probably one of their best transfers that they got in this cycle, and Jeff Brom brought in a lot of them. And Jeff Brom brings back a quarterback now, Jack Plummer, that's been in his offense before. He knows the system. I think Jack Plummer is going to need to come in and need to have that guy that he's going to go to. I think Jamari Thrash is going to be that guy. And I know people are going to be shocked by that pick, but just don't be surprised if Jamari Thrash is a guy this year. Don't be surprised if he's like a late or if he's an early day 3 guy in the NFL draft coming around next year. I think he could be that kind of guy. So I think the ACC is a conference where you can take a chance on a guy in this draft. I think because there's so many like all these like top end receivers in the ACC are all transfers, excluding maybe a couple guys, maybe one that you're going to end up drafting or not. But I think he's really good. He's the next Jeff Brom receiver for him. He's that guy. So Jamari Thrash, remember that name. Hopefully we'll come back here at the end of the season and I'm right. So that'd be awesome.
Yeah. I'm rooting for Louisville in general. Jeff Brom's the guy I've liked all the way since he was at Western Kentucky. Back at Louisville, I believe that's his alma mater, right? Or he's from Kentucky.
He played at Louisville.
He played at Louisville. Yeah.
Quarterback. Yep.
So, I mean, I like him at Purdue. Shout out, Mom. And
shout out Uncle JD.
Yep. And a lot of Boilers in this
family. A lot of Boilers in this family.
Yeah, I hope so. I think college football is better. The ACC is better when Louisville's good. I mean, when the Lamar Jackson days, that they were exciting. Yeah, I don't know if I would have gone that route. That's pretty ballsy to me, especially with the first pick.
Okay, then tell me what your pick is. Okay, so I want to go, obviously, guys, at Florida State, Johnny Wilson or Keon Coleman. The problem is I don't know which one to pick, and I'm not going to pick either one. And he's calling me out for taking a risk. All right, this 1,000-yard receiver.
Okay, this is more because I'm I'm very, very high on both these receivers, and we'll get to the other one when we get to him, okay? But it's from Kent State, okay? Devontae Walker.
And I'm taking the risks here, right? I'm taking the risks.
920 yards last year, 11 TDs, and he's transferring to North Carolina. We saw what North Carolina, Josh Downs. We've seen what they've done, and I think I just have a more faith in that offense in terms of production from one wide receiver. I think Devontae Walker is going to be a better fantasy player than Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman. I don't know if he's a better football player. The jury's still out on that, but I think he's going to have a monster fantasy year with North Carolina. And I know out of summer camp or spring camp, I know they've been really, really impressed with him. They're really excited to have him. He's going to have, they got big plans for him there in North Carolina. And I think, yeah, like I said, the offense just creates that environment for that wide receiver one to have a crazy year.
New offensive coordinator, though.
Not worried.
See,
a little bit worried.
I think that is more of a risk than taking Jamari Thrash, because I know what Jeff Brom's offense looks like. I don't know what that offense is going to look like in North Carolina.
I would argue that the more important player in the equation is the quarterback versus the coach. Jack Plummer. And I've talked him up. I like Jack Plummer. But that's it. I like Jack Plummer.
Yeah, and I like Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah, you're so right. This is college football. I should know better.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, so I think, I don't know. I mean, it's crazy that we didn't. I'll just talk about Keon Coleman, Michigan State transfer, absolute freak. He's going to be a high draft pick next year, likely. He's probably going to be the focal point of this offense. It was Johnny Wilson last year. I took Trey Benson as my running back in the ACC. So he's going to be another focal point of that offense. But I really think that Keon Coleman, I mean, just an elite, like just an elite player. He is. And it'd be really easy to take him. But again, I just like the upside of Jamari Thrash, because Keon Coleman itself, you're taking a risk because he's transferring in there. You don't know.
And you're battling touches too.
And you're battling touches. So for me, it's just, I think Jamari Thrash is just, I think that's just your best. I don't know. In my eyes, I thought that was a good pick. Now I get your Devontae Walker pick. I get that. That's kind of similar to my Jamari Thrash pick, but just don't be don't be knocking my pick down if you're just gonna go the same route as I am.
I know.
All right, but anyways, here we go. Let's move on. Well, actually,
I got a sleeper. Yeah.
Okay.
I think
you're a sleeper.
I was the culprit of this. I know our boy Josh Pate was a culprit of this too. Kanata Mumfield. I think we were a year too early on him at Pitt. Okay, we were kind of a little bit too high on Keaton Slovis at Pitt.
Who's now BYU.
Should have been now BYU. He was a guy that, as a true freshman, when Jordan Addison did his thing, right, as wide receiver one in that offense, he still had 750 yards and 8 touchdowns as a true freshman. Last year, he took a step back. The whole offense took a step back. But that offense is designed to have a wide receiver one to go off. And that was Jared Wayne last year. Had a good year, not great year. Obviously not Jordan Addison, Blitnikoff level, but Jared Wayne's good. He's gone now. It'll be Kanata Mumfield's team and wide receiver position group now. Phil Jurkovich, a guy I love. I don't know why, but he's a big lefty from Boston College. So he's coming up to Pitt now, transferring in. So he's a guy that's gonna be interesting. I think he's gonna have year 3 there.
Yeah, I mean, Boston College was playing with defensive linemen at their offensive line by the end of the year. So I feel, let's cut Phil Jurkovich some slack. Let's cut him some slack. Hand him a knife, help him cut some slack, because or some scissors, I guess. Because he was battling a lot. I think Pitt is actually gonna be a pretty good team this year. They lost Kalijah Cansey, but that's on the defensive side of the ball. So I like that as a sleeper. Yeah. All right. Anyways, let's move on. Let's move on to the Pac-12, where I have my notes on my phone right here, because I don't want him to see it right here.
Well, I get the first pick, right?
You get the first pick.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want you to get any ideas.
Well, the thing is, I've spent the last 3-4 days since we've recorded trying to figure this out and really talk myself out of Romeo Dunze, because that's who I'm going to go with at Washington. I think him and Jalen McMillan are the guys I was keying on, because I wanted the USC guys, I know I've been talking up Dorian Singer. I love Brendan Rice. Mario Williams, obviously really good. Zachariah Branch, the 5-star wide receiver coming in. The problem is that's the problem. Exactly. There's 4 guys, 5 guys, a good tight end there, got running backs, a lot of mouths to feed in that offense. And I feel like they're a team that's going to be blowing teams out too. So they might, save those guys for come playoff time. So I'm going to go Romeo Dunze. He had a little bit better year statistically on a per game average than Jalen McMillan, even though I like Jalen McMillan too a ton. He had 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns in only 12 games. So I think this is the safe pick here, in my opinion. High upside offense with Michael Penix, who we love out there in the Pac-12. But yeah.
Well, that's crazy because I'm going Jalen McMillan.
Okay.
And why do I love Jalen McMillan? And I would have taken him over Romeo Dunze.
Okay.
I was going to take him with like my 1-1 pick. Him or like a guy from USC. We might talk about it in a minute here. But Jalen McMillan, I mean, statistically, season long wise, right? He actually had more catches than Dunze, but that doesn't always tell you everything, right? It's not the full story. But the reality is he's a more explosive player than Dunze. He just is, right? And that's an explosive offense. I think they're going to be more explosive than they were last year. And when you have explosiveness in an offense and you have a guy who's traditionally your explosive player, that's explosions. And I like taking explosions in these draft scenarios like this. So everyone's super high on him, right? He's a lot smaller than Dunze. I don't care. I literally do not care. I think he's a great he's a great complete receiver. He's a guy. I don't know if you had anything else to touch on that, but
I don't hate that. Like I said, I went back and forth between those two. I think it's really gonna end up being close to a wash, kind of like it was this year with those guys. So
I'm okay with.
Yeah, the Pac-12 is pretty loaded offensively.
As long as you don't get me in the Pac-12 and the Big 12, I think my chances of winning this are pretty high.
Yeah. But with my sleeper, I'm going to go Kyle Williams at Washington State program with Jake Dickert, who we're rooting for as a second-year coach. Kyle Williams is originally from UNLV. He had 40 catches, 540 yards, 5 touchdowns last year. Not elite numbers, but pretty good in my opinion. He got hot towards the end of the year. He had 100 yards against Hawaii, 70 yards and a touchdown against Nevada. So UNLV is not a very good program at all. I think Barry Odom's going over there now. They had a coaching change. So he ends up at Washington State with Cameron Ward. I think is going to help him a lot. And he's going to become Cameron Ward's top guy at Washington State. So he's a fun guy that I'm rooting for too. I'll be looking to follow his season.
Right. I think it's a really good one. I mean, they got the Western Kentucky offensive coordinator there over there now. So I'm a big fan of that. I like that as a sleeper a lot. I'm just going to talk about Dorian Singer. He's not a sleeper in a sense because he had 1,100, 1,200 yards last year. I mean,
for Arizona,
66 receptions or something like that. And for Arizona, I mean, in that offense, Christopher talks about Jaden DeLaura, loves that guy. But I'm just going to say, I know your opinion is that, there isn't enough to go around. I think there is. I think there is. When you have an offense that elite, there is enough to go. Yeah. And I think Dorian Singer is going to be a huge part of that. I like Mario Williams. I like Brendan Rice. I like Zachariah Branch. I like all those guys. I think I'm a little bit higher on Dorian Singer just because I'm just excited about, he's in a new place and we saw what he did at his last place. Mario Williams, we've seen that. He's a good player. We've seen that.
Yeah.
Right. Reality is Mario Williams might be a better player. Who knows? I just am more excited about Dorian Singer because he's in a new place. I think he can be just as explosive as he was last year. So that would be it's not a sleeper. It's not really a sleeper. Same thing like Brew McCoy. That's not like a sleeper, but just a guy, if you're watching late night football this year,
you gotta know. Oh, who's that guy flashing across the screen?
You need to know who Dorian Singer, right? You need to know who Dorian Singer is. All right. Well, let's go to the Big Ten. Marvin Harrison Jr. Sorry. Yep, that's my pick. What do you mean, damn it? Yeah, because I was not going to pick Marvin Harrison Jr. You're crazy. I mean, I don't think I need to explain this. He's going to be a top 5 pick when he goes out for draft next year. He was the best player. I'm not gonna
in the
say.
Big Ten.
I think he was better than CJ Stroud as a football
Oh,
player.
yeah.
I think because I was about to say I was like, but yeah, he definitely was 100%. He's so good. He's so, body control, route running, hands, physical blocker. What do you want? What do you want from? Oh yeah, he can do everything. And obviously he's Marvin Harrison kid, so he's just really really good. I don't know. Do we need to explain? It's a
No.
no-brainer. You guys
This
listening?
is like me talking about Caleb Williams.
Yeah,
There's
like these listeners here, they're like, we know this, right? Like, we know that he's good. Just shut up and what CD is picked. So I'm gonna let you pick. Shut up.
real quick. He torched Steven Ringo, and he torched him until he got hurt. And he's that type of impact.
And the play that he got hurt. He caught it. If he didn't like absolutely like just like fall limp from that absolute sheep shot in the head, like he would have literally that was a touchdown.
He's the type of wide receiver impact like Jameson Williams had on Bama that one year, but he's obviously way better than Jameson Williams. And Jameson Williams was a top 10 pick, even with coming off 20 ACL. Well, he's a guy, if he gets hurt, I know Ohio State, they're loaded at wide receiver. They're going to miss him. He is that their offense is going to be run through him. And they got two tight ends. They got 2 running backs. They got 2 more
like 3
wide receivers. I mean, but he is that good to where he'll be missed. And
oh, Matthew, there's so many mouths to feed. Shut up. Whoever is saying that right now, listening to this, there's so many mouths. Shut up.
No, there were so many mouths last year.
Shut up.
And the thing is, like, look at 2 years ago with Garrett Wilson and Jackson Smith-Njigba and
Chris Olave.
They're all 8. And by the way, they were all kind of comparable. Marvin Harrison Jr. is head and shoulders better than Emeka Buke and Julian Fleming and whoever else is going to be there competing for touch. I mean, it's not even close. So, yeah, I like that. Enough said. My guy, I'm going to go again with Kent State. Dante Cephas transferring into Penn State. I think he's got high upside potential in that offense with Drew Allar. They have to replace Parker Washington. I think he's going to step in right there and do that pretty well. 2 straight productive years in the MAC.
Which is saying a lot.
We love that. And I think he's going to really enjoy playing for Penn State. He's going to be elevated in that offense. I know they got 2 running backs there that are monsters, and I took Nick Singleton, but I think that offense, I'm betting on that offense to play really, really well. And so I'm going with Dante Cephas.
Yeah, I think Penn State's going to be fantastic this year. I do think Sean Lewis is a very good offensive coordinator. Obviously, I mean, he's at Colorado right now, along with more elite. I mean, Mike Zimmer's an analyst on that Colorado team. So, like, reality is Sean Lewis was a really good coach at Kent State. He got the best out of his players. I think he's really, really good. He's going to produce for Penn State. I don't really care who you take here. I did not care who you took here because I
took a guy with high. I thought I wasn't gonna take Emeka Buka because maybe he is the second best wide receiver in the Big Ten, but he's not gonna come anywhere near Marvin Harrison. So the only way to make up this gap is by taking a flyer on a guy on another team and hoping that offense pans out. And I looked around and I said, what offense do I trust more than anybody else? It's Penn State. Honestly, offensive, passing wise, right? Maryland doesn't have that elite wide receiver like they've had in terms what was that 5-star Barrett, whatever his name is, Raheem Jarrett. And they had Dante Demas. Yep, thank you. A couple other guys there too. So Jacob Copeland, I think, was there too.
Yep.
So yeah, that's why I'm
candidly, if I was in your position, I would have taken Isaiah Williams from Illinois. Very productive. Also, they bring in Luke Altmaier at quarterback. So that's just a guy who's what would you call it? He's just versatile, right? He can do everything. He's just gonna find his touches, right? He's an explosive guy. He's probably the only explosive guy on that team besides Chase Brown, I guess. But even Chase Brown, like, I don't know. I think he's good. But my actual sleeper, excuse me, talk about Maryland guys. They lost those guys. Who comes in? His name is Tyrese Chambers, right? Transfer from FIU, had 1,000 yards over there. Not a correction, but he had 1,000 yards there in 2021. Okay, he was really good. 2022, kind of injury plague season. did not produce as much as you saw him in 2021, but the film is there, dude. He's fantastic. He's a fantastic player. So I think he's still gonna be fighting to like get on the field, right? I mean, you got Juwan Jones, Caden Prather. I mean, I think there's good guys at Maryland there as well, but I think when it's all said and done, I think Tyrese Chambers is gonna crack his way into that lineup. And we know how pass heavy that offense is. And Talia loves to spread the ball around, and he loves shooting guys downfield a lot. So that's a guy I think that could have a lot of high upside this year. That would be like a sleeper, not considered for this draft, but definitely a sleeper. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I'm going to head over to the Big Ten West. With my sleeper, I'm going to go Marcus Washington from Nebraska. Originally from Texas, transferred in last year and was kind of productive. I'd say semi-productive. Their main guy last year was Trey Palmer, who ended up going to the NFL draft. Speedster from LSU, that transferred from LSU. I think Marcus Washington's kind of the alpha dog coming back. Marcus Satterfield, the new offense coordinator, comes over from South Carolina. I think it'll be an interesting offense. Who knows with Jeff Sims or even it's gonna be Jeff Sims there, basically. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited for him. In the Big Ten West, I know who knows with offensive production. I know you took Isaiah or you think about Isaiah Washington, but Marcus Washington's an interesting guy to think about.
All right. Next one. G5. I'm pretty upset because I didn't get G5 for quarterbacks. I didn't get G5 for receiver because I think there's.
Sold on running backs too, by the way.
I didn't. I have not drafted well in G5. I don't think, and I'm not doing him any, or not getting any favors drafting second year because, you know what? I'm just gonna.
I'll say it.
I just hope. Don't say it.
I'm gonna pair him with my quarterback.
No.
Yeah, so I took Austin Reed with my quarterback from Washington State. Gosh. So I'm going with his top wide receiver, Malachi Corey.
No.
1,300 yards, 101 catches, 11 touchdowns. Do you know how many fantasy points that's an NFL top wide receiver one type player in 16 games, 17 games they play there. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm not that I'm hoping for any injuries at all, but an injury happens to happen to one of my players, blah, blah, blah.
I would be pissed.
That might be my only chance with catching up to Marvin Harrison, counterbalancing that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. I mean, he's literally a monster. Austin Reed slings a rock there. I mean, I'm pretty upset about that. I think he's so good. Like, sure, he's undersized. Again, I'm gonna keep saying I don't care. Okay,
group of 5 too.
NFL scouts are still looking at
USA.
Like when it's all said and done, he is good enough where he is a second-round draft pick. Right now, I think on a lot of NFL teams' boards right now, he is a legitimate second-round draft pick, and he's playing an offense that benefits him so much. Mm-hmm. So fantasy-wise, like if you're going head-to-head with someone, first of all, again, with the same thing with Austin Reed, right? If you're taking a wide receiver, overall, right? Marvin Harrison Jr. is your number one wide receiver. Your number 2 wide receiver in fantasy terms?
Probably him.
It's probably Malachi Corley. It literally is. So the fact that you get him with your G5 alternate is pretty scary if some of your guys don't end up working out or playing. But, I mean, I'm just going to go safe here. And my pick's Torrey Horton, Colorado State, 71 catches, 1,000 yards. It's one of the few, 1,000-yard receivers. There's a handful of them returning even from college football last year. He's one of the few of them. Playing with the same quarterback.
The only one in the Mountain West.
The only one in the Mountain West coming back with 1,000 yards. So Clay Millen's still a quarterback. Jay Norvell runs an air raid offense. Loves that stuff. So that benefits wide receivers. And if you look at the production of the rest of the receiving group and running backs and tight ends in that, I think the next best receiver out of 400 yards. That is the difference that you're talking about in terms of like the level of talent that Torrey Horton is versus the rest of the guys at Colorado State. So but I like Jay Norvell. He's an offensive guy, which is weird though because he was actually a linebacker, played for the Bears a while back.
Oh, really?
So I don't know how he turned into an offensive guy, but he's been an offensive guy for years. He's been like Texas, maybe Nebraska. He's been a lot of places as an offensive guy, but I think that's a safe pick right there. My sleeper, like a guy that you would consider, I guess, betting on upside, Luke McCaffrey. How do I know that name? Well, it's Christian McCaffrey's brother. Okay, he's at Rice now.
Former quarterback of Nebraska.
Yep. So he's pretty talented. I mean, he's played receiver before, 700 yards at receiver. I think he's going to be. And people, let's not forget, JT Daniels is transferring to Rice. Okay, and I seriously actually struggled. It's not a JT Daniels segment, but I'm going to talk about him. I struggle to find why people hate on JT Daniels so much. Like, why is there always these rumors that JT Daniels was like a bad teammate or whatever? Like, you talk to every coach he has ever had at Georgia, right? He got benched, took it like a champ. Coaches respect the hell out of him for that entire situation that went on with USC. Same thing. Like, coaches were really talk highly of him. At Pitt, he got benched at the end of the year. Or not Pitt,
West Virginia.
West Virginia, that's what I meant. He got benched at the end of the year, and he took it like a champ. He's not a bad quarterback, all right? He's not fantastic, but I think he wants one more shot to really prove that he can, like, play at the next level. I know he wants to play at the next level. He's a highly rated recruit coming out of high school, and I think that he needs that guy like Luke McCaffrey to be there, right? He didn't really have a lot of guys at West Virginia. I think Luke McCaffrey is really talented if we know anything about that family. So
just athletes.
Right. Athletes. So I think Luke McCaffrey is like sleeper. If you didn't know he was at Rice, well, now you do. So I think that's definitely a guy to look out for, I think.
I like that too. The upside there, not only he's another offseason after a position change. So he gets the whole offseason to work more, continuing to refine his craft. Wide receiver is not an easy position to master. It's a lot of technique. It's a lot of repetition. It's hard. So for him to do that quickly from quarterback to wide receiver is pretty impressive. I think we'll see another jump, especially JT Daniels. Rice doesn't see that talented quarterbacks that often. You know, you're not going to say what you want about him, right? Apparently, I think it started with the Georgia fan base getting mad that he couldn't beat out Stetson Bennett, and then they lost to Bama. So that's why they were all crying about it. But then Stetson Bennett being the right choice. So who knows? I don't knock JT Daniels for any of that. Even though he's transferred a bunch, I don't hold that against him. Sorry, I don't know why I'm talking about JT Daniels, but it's a wide receiver segment, group of 5. The next one I want to talk about, my sleeper would be Sam Pinkney from Coastal Carolina, 6'4", 215, transferred in from Georgia State. He's a monster.
The Georgia State receivers.
Yeah. Those poor guys. I think he's gonna be really good. He's really good last year. Another year with Grayson McCall coming back. They're gonna miss Jamie Chadwell for sure, but I think he's still gonna have a great year. And that's someone you should look for come NFL draft time. 6'4", 215. You can't teach that with production. Yeah.
Right. Awesome. So that concludes the draft. Right. So that concludes the draft of the pass catchers. It's going to include our fantasy drafts. We might do more drafts like these in the future, but it'd be more of like an eye test kind of thing. Like, we want to draft offensive linemen, but I don't know. Is that exciting to people? We don't know. So
let us know.
I don't know. Let us know things like that. Wide receiver draft and CD's team or wide receiver tight end draft. Only one tight end was taken, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It's actually not that crazy, I don't think. But CD took Brock Bowers in the SEC. In the Big 12, he took Xavier Worthy. In the ACC, he took Devontae Walker. Walker. That said that right, thankfully. Pac-12, CD took Romeo Dunzier. And then in the Big 10, he took Dante Cephas. And then his G5 ultimate is Malachi Corley. My team is looking like Malik Neighbors, Jaron Bradley, Jamari Thrash from the ACC, Jalen McMillan from the Pac-12, Marvin Harrison Jr. from the Big 10. Let's go. And then Torrey Horton from Colorado State for my G5 alternate. So I'm pretty high on my draft. I think I got the advantage of taking first for a couple of these, but I think you made up for quite a bit with not only Malachi Corley, but again, a lot of these receivers are just risks we're taking because of the transfers. I mean, so I think the running back draft, I think was the hardest one because there's a lot of committees, but I think this one is the most, in terms of your range of outcomes.
Very volatile.
Most volatile. I think the easiest one for me was the quarterback one, and the hardest one was the running back. Because people are still hating on me for taking, and people like, look, you can try to correct me and say, Damian Martinez, their running back from last year is actually coming back. You're wrong. Okay. I don't care. Again, Damian Martinez ended the season with 6 games, rushing over 100 yards and over 25 touches. So, oh wait, yeah, he's pretty good. So, and he's going to start over that guy that started at the beginning of the season last year. Blanking on his name right now, but
He doesn't matter.
But this is a wide receiver draft that we're talking about. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. It's an in-person episode. Shout out fathers. Happy Father's Day to everyone listening. Yeah, so make sure you catch us on YouTube or Spotify, whichever one's preferable to you guys. Be sure to like and subscribe. Also on Twitter, if you want to follow us, the Redshirt Soft. That's at the Redshirt Soft. We have pretty good content on there. Honestly, a lot of it is Steve Wilfong retweets. So if you follow Steve Wilfong, you're gonna get a lot of this overlapping content. But we do our best over there. Plus, also additionally, we didn't get to a mailbag question today, but in the future, and like most episodes, we get mailbag questions for you guys we like to answer. So if you want to catch us at the Redshirt Sophomore at gmail.com. Some people had troubles. Some people told me that it wasn't sending properly, or that, like, I don't know, but it's not Redshirt Sophomore at gmail.com. It's the Redshirt Sophomore at gmail.com. So make sure you add the in there. All right, but anyways, thank you guys. Any last notes?
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day. Thank you guys.